Welcome back to RotoMoto. My name is Donnie, and with the wrapping up of the Paris Supercross this weekend, we now have the unfortunate task of waiting through this long 54-day absence of racing. But the 2022 season went out with a bang, with the crowning of the King of Paris coming down to a head-to-head battle in the final race against two of the best. Here are 5 things we take away from the weekend, brought to you by O'Neill. Before we get into the meat of the video, just a quick announcement. I'm happy to announce that I've been offered the opportunity to work directly with RacerX Online to provide weekly video content over on their YouTube channel alongside Weege and Kellen, so be sure to subscribe over there if you aren't already to get my other videos in your timeline. Davey Coombs was very adamant about me having time and control to continue my RotoMoto content over here, so I'll still be doing more breaking news and analysis on this channel, as well as the PulpMX fantasy content once the 2023 season starts back up. The growth has been a bit overwhelming, but I'm very fortunate to have such a full plate. But onto the reason you're here, 5 takeaways from Paris this weekend. First, Ken Roczen was feisty. Easily the best 94 we've seen in 2022, and maybe a few years beyond that. He dominates the second day, becoming the King of Paris with a perfect 1-1-1 record on Sunday, ending Eli Tomac's bid for a perfect season, and the rest of the class needs to take notice. Everything we expect to see from a vintage Ken Roczen was present. He qualified well, his starts were on point, he looked incredibly comfortable on that genuine Honda in the whoops, and he used the opening laps to sprint away from the competition and give himself plenty of breathing room up front to safely bring home the title. It wasn't easy either. Eli managed to pressure Ken more than once late in the short races, and many expected to see Ken collapse like a house of cards like we've seen before, but it wasn't to be this weekend. Ken carries the momentum of winning the World Supercross Championship and convincingly beating the 2 men that have won the last 4 AMA Supercross Championships this weekend, making him arguably the hottest free agent in the history of the sport. Now, with all of the racing out of the way, we just sit and wait to see where he lands. And if his performance this weekend on the international arm of the Firepower Honda team will tempt him to stick with a red bike in 2023 in order to stick it to the corporate overlords at Factory Honda. All of that Ken praise is not to undermine Eli's accomplishments, however. The number 3 still won 2 of the 6 super sprints, and despite a horrendous gate pick in the first race on Sunday, managed to finish on the podium in every single one. He took the title until the final race, just needing to beat Ken head-to-head to force the tiebreaker that may have favored him as the winner of the final race on the weekend. It must sting for Eli to see that quote-unquote perfect season slip from his grasp, but I don't think the loss here takes away from his incredible season. Winning both US titles, the Motocross of Nations crown, and sweeping the only round of World Supercross he was able to line up for per the wildcard rules. There is no Grand Slam of motocross, and at the end of the day, this title would have paled in comparison to his other accomplishments in 2022. Just a single day from his 30th birthday, I'm sure the number 3 was more concerned with entertaining the fans and entering what would likely be his final season as healthy as he can be, than to risk it all battling a hungry Ken Roczen with a chip on his shoulder and something still to prove. But let's not forget that Red Bull KTM was there this weekend. You may have missed that even if you watched, because they were never really in the hunt. Marvin Musquin swept this event last year, winning every single sprint race, but that field was relatively weak with no major US players in the fight. This weekend saw the 2022 St. Louis race winner not even close, finishing 5th overall with just 2 podiums in the 6 races. For context, Justin Brayton ended up on the podium behind Ken and Eli with 3 podiums, and the 38-year-old, being dead last and down in the first turn of the second race Saturday, still managed to sprint up to 7th in the 8-minute main. But this isn't that unexpected, as Marv wasn't expected to compete with the top 3, and was likely fighting for 4th and 5th anyway, but he was expected to be battling with Brayton for that spot instead of his teammate. We don't need to cover the peculiar year that Webb had, culminating in his sitting out of the Pro Motocross Series, and talk of retirement, as that's been well documented. But what we did expect was a feistier Webb in his official return to action this weekend, and we just did not get it. Instead, it felt more of the same. Webb seemed to be getting passed more than he was doing the passing, yielding positions to the other top guys even with good starts. Webb did manage to snag a single podium in the second race on Saturday, but that feels like a gimme with Brayton and Musquin both having problems that send them careening down the running order. Webb was the 5th guy this weekend, going 5-3, 5-4, 4-5, finishing a combined 88 seconds off the leading pace in those 6 races. Much like Tomac, there's no real reason to get too trigger happy here, as this is a meaningless race for Coop, just another off-season exhibition with the flat rate pay for the champion to show up to. But if we know one thing about Cooper Webb, it's that he is a competitor and he does not like to be embarrassed, and he cannot be pleased being this far off the pace. He did admit to making massive bike changes going into the second day, swapping out 2 springs and 2 sets of forks, and it did help, as the second day gaps were considerably closer than the first, but 17 seconds off in a 12-minute race isn't exactly a good sign. This shows that they are trying, but the bike is still not where he wants it, and both Webb and the Red Bull KTM team have plenty of work to do in the 53 days between now and A1. The final takeaway is just a short one. The Bercy Supercross is a well-oiled machine, and I think both the AMA Series as well as World Supercross should take notes. I really dug the 6 races in 2-day event, and I think WSX should consider that if their schedule ends up being less than 6 cities again. I wouldn't even mind 2 days with 2 12-minute features instead of 3 short ones in 1 day. Also, calling each individual race a super sprint is a great name, and Feld should absolutely steal that for the Triple Crown main. It ties in with their new Super Motocross Championship name and finally gives us a way to differentiate between the 20-minute main events of the normal and the shorter races of the Triple Crown format. Let me know in the comments if you had a chance to watch Bercy Supercross, and if you did so, what did you think of the track, the format, and the event as a whole? Thanks as always for watching RotoMoto. My name is Donnie. Keep it pinned to the weekend.